Chicago fire roared back for season 11, hotter than a 5-alarm blaze. Buckle up, because we're diving into scorching drama, heart-stopping rescues, and unexpected turns that'll leave you begging for more. After a decade of working at Firehouse 51, Jesse Spencer's noble firefighter made the difficult decision to relocate to Portland, Oregon to take care of the kids of his deceased best friend. Stella Kid and Kelly Severide's honeymoon is anything but blissful. A vengeful face from their past reignites danger, testing their trust and throwing their newfound happiness into the flames. But fear not, these two firefighters are forged in fire, and they'll face the threat head-on, together. Jesse and Brett have been trying a long-distance relationship, but it's not working, so they decide to break up. Violet reaches out to Hawkins when she learns from Gallo that Hawkins went to bat for her with DC Hill. Kid and Carver work together to help Carver's former boss, as Kid tries her best to get to know Carver better since Chief Bowden loves him. As Hawkins and Violet's relationship blossoms, Gallo turns his attention elsewhere and starts dating unknowingly Herman's niece. Firehouse 51 is called to a scene at a burning building. Evan is on site, too, and he tries to save someone fleeing the fire. But before he and the victim have time to reach a safe distance from the crumbling building, they're buried under rubble. Later in the episode, we learn the man Evan saved came out alive. However, Evan succumbed to his injuries from the accident and passed away. After so many steps back, Cruz and Chloe take steps to make Javi a permanent part of their family and finally adopt him, making all 51 squad happy. Kid reflects on her Girls on Fire program after one of her students graduates from the Fire Academy. After all the Severide and Kid live on their honeymoon, and afterwards, Severide keeps in touch with Detective Prima and keep working together to find the guys who try to kill them. Violet's nemesis, Emma, is back, but now as an investigator in CFDIAD, when a complaint was filed against Sam Carver after a fiasco with a bridge operator while saving a man on a bike. Severide struggles with the cost of helping Detective Prima with the Martucci case, as Detective Prima's case comes to an explosive end with Kid and Carver's lives in danger when a propel grenade is attached to Prima's leg. But luckily Kid saved him, not without getting injured. Dylan is Sylvie Brett's ex-boyfriend, first appearing in season 11. He is a minor league hockey player, as Sylvie is nervous for their first date and trying to leave behind Jesse. Kid is still having nightmares about the explosion and is beginning to affect her work, even going so far as to have discussions about how to do their job with Severide, affecting some cases. Chief Bowden gives Severide and Kid a stern talk and an ultimatum about their relationship and problems working together. When a recording of Hawkins' memoir on his laptop was discovered exposing Emma's blackmail scheme, Violet brought the laptop to IAD Chief Frank Silva, and Emma was later fired from the CFD. Herman's wife is diagnosed with lung cancer. An operation is necessary to remove it, but unfortunately, they cannot remove all the cancer, having to resort to chemotherapy. Part 2. After a sad ending of Part 1, we're ready to follow Station 51 to their new adventures. Carver opens up to Kid and tells him the anecdote about why he got his scar. It turns out that when he was a child, his older brother threw him into a bonfire, but no one believed him as it was something very difficult to understand. Carver's troubled older brother comes to town asking for a huge favor. Later, Carver snaps at Stella. After Severide's interest in arson investigation was sufficiently sparked in this season, he received a call from the CFD Office of Fire Investigation Captain Tom Van Meter. So Severide had received an invitation to the best arson investigation training program in the world, which sadly happened to be located in Alabama. Giving Battalion Chief Wallace Bowden just 1 day's notice, Severide left to pursue his passions in arson investigation. Herman continues to struggle to keep it together as Cindy's condition worsens. With Severide still gone, Cruz feels the burden of his increased responsibilities as he deals with a disruptive new member to squad. After an absence of many years, Gallo's Aunt Lacey returns to make amends and give him the key to a storage locker filled with old family memories. Casey returns to Firehouse 51 to serve with Kid on a special task force. Cindy cancer is finally in remission, so Herman decided to give her a party at Molly's. Casey reunites with Brett, and she has conflicted feelings about her new relationship with Dylan and her past relationship with Casey. Later on, Gallo's aunt is involved in a serious car accident. Engine 51 rescues a homeless man named Shep, who was pinned under an overturned garbage truck. Afterwards, Kid takes an interest in helping him, but Shep mistakes her compassion for something else. When Carver confronts Shep outside of Kid's apartment, Shep physically attacks Carver and they fight. Unfortunately, Carver is then arrested by law enforcement, and Kid watches in disbelief as Carver is taken away in a police car. Meanwhile, when on a harrowing call to help a pregnant 16-year-old, Brett and Violet are able to successfully deliver her baby girl, despite the problems caused by First Shift not replacing the used OB kit in their call bag. Later, the baby is anonymously left at the firehouse. Kylie takes and passes the firefighter final exams. Cruz finds out that Severide is done with his training in Alabama and is doing something else, and he tells Stella. Stella tells Violet and Brett that she talked with Severide, but their conversation was far from reassuring. According to her, Severide said the ATF gig came up too suddenly to notify Stella about it, but he insisted that it was no big deal. For Stella, everything Severide said was so vague, including how the new job affects when he comes home. A bigger problem arises for Stella, momentarily distracting her from domestic drama. An extremely destructive bullet found at her rescue call suggests that there may be a domestic terrorist threat to Chicago. Casey gives Brett a heads up that he's coming, and when he shows up at the firehouse, Brett breaks the news that she's trying to adopt a baby. He asks if Dylan is involved. Sylvie explains that he's supportive, but no, and Casey says he's happy for her. He even teams up with Violet, Stella, and Mouch to pay the baby's biological mother, Amber, a visit to talk up the most amazing, caring person I know. Dylan, however, is not as on board with the baby plan as Brett thinks. He breaks up with her, explaining that they're at really different places in their lives, and it's obvious that she's not over Casey. Lucky for her, Casey isn't over her either. After hearing that Amber has agreed to the adoption, Casey shows up at Brett's apartment and says he got her something a year and a half ago that he wants to give her before he goes back to Portland. Then he gets down on one knee and pulls out a diamond ring. As for Stella's relationship, she decides to take some shifts off to go get her husband and bring him back to Chicago. Carver doesn't look too happy to hear this. The firehouse comes under fire from a sniper at a power plant. Casey goes after the shooter against Bowden's objections, and with Stella, Carver, and Gallo's help, they stop the sniper. But the damage is done. Mouch is wounded during the gunfire and starts bleeding out and coding at the hospital. It seems Mouch is better while Herman visits him in the hospital, but after a few words they notice something is really wrong, as Mouch is bleeding a lot. Well, that's all for Season 11. Hope you enjoy the recap. If you want to watch more Chicago recaps, click here. Don't forget to subscribe and share this video. Thanks for watching Flicks and TV.